Hello, everyone. I hope you had a good 4th of July. So this is Pixie. I am back for another video. My ghostly white appearance now makes a return on YouTube. But anyways, I had a decent amount of requests to make another video, and here we are. So I'm going to actually just zoom into a point that I made in my first video and just get started with it. You know, a lot of individuals who I had talked to both on social media as well as real life, they had approached me and said they liked my points, and a couple of them actually challenged one of the points that I made, and this was specific to the transsexual versus transgender sort of rant that I was making. So I'm going to touch on that again. And you know, whenever I even made that video, a lot of that was just a rant. You know, I had a long day at work. I come home and then I have that dialogue on that Facebook group. And it was a Republican group that I was supposed to be a part of. And because I do view myself as moderate Republican, and unfortunately, well, as I described on my last video, that had happened. So I think on this video, maybe I'll make that one another one. I'm just going to further narrow my beliefs on transgenderism versus transsexualism. So whenever we think of transgenderism, we think of someone that identifies as a gender different than what they were born with, however that may be. However, I believe that the transgender ideals are so much, and they are invalidating to the actual transsexual experience. And I think it's okay to gatekeep individuals who don't actually transition, because I think that eradicates and invalidates what we go through as transsexuals. So describing the transsexual experience, we first have to go through therapy to further validate that we really are transsexual, and it can't be something else like maybe body dysmorphia. And there's plenty of other mental illnesses that I'm sure would impair our ability to discover that we are transsexual. But then after that, we do have to actually start the transition. We have to actually go on hormones. We have to actually live through those hormones and what they change in our body, which for some of us can be quite drastic. We have to deal with, for at least trans females, breast growth, which can be painful. For trans men, they have to deal with the deepening of the voice, and it doesn't always deepen to the point they want. Not only that, but they have to get surgeries to remove, for trans females, you know what, downstairs, and for trans men, their breasts, and also to change what's downstairs. Now, whenever I think of someone who's non-gender binary, I think they don't always go through that. A lot of that has to do with internal thought. A lot of that has to do with them trying to defy the binary, right? Because they believe there's inherently no gender binary. However, that is exactly what transsexuals live by. We live by that binary. That is our codex and foundation of what we are and why we're transitioning. The entire point of transitioning is going from one to the other, or the other to one. And there's so much science to back up what transsexualism is. You know, brain swabs, electromagnetic scans that shows where gray matter actually shows up in the train of thought, and actually using our brain. And I think whenever you say something like gender is a social construct, you are essentially invalidating a lot of what we go through as transsexuals. Transsexuals do not care about anyone around us. Our transition is not about anyone around us. Our transition is only about ourselves. That is the entire point of why we are trans. So whenever you start including society, and you start including the greater politics, or you start including social faux pas in general into our transition, you're invalidating the scientific and pure reason for why we're transitioning, which only has to do with, for me, myself, and I, likewise to every other transsexual person. Not only that, but I think that whenever you do inherently invalidate the transsexual experience of actually transitioning, are you really a part of that community? And what's so ironic about the greater politics of transgenderism is how they will mock those who gatekeep. They will mock transsexuals and call us trans medicalists and other icks and isms. And that ironically just makes the transsexual and transgender community look worse. Not only that, but we're also trying to greater transgender politics are trying to involve themselves in things that we don't need to be a part of, like feminism, for example. I'm very critical on feminism. However, only cis females should really be in feminism. The rest of us obviously should be allies to women. And I'll have my thoughts on feminism later on. I am very critical of it, and you guys will find out why. But this is just a blanket example of why I'm critical of transgenders and why I think there's a difference. And one of them is involving themselves with things that we frankly don't need to be involved in, because we have our own issues that we need to tackle that are not being tackled because they're being overshadowed by other things. Another reason why that I think there is a difference is because transgenderism, a lot of that isn't based on science. You know, a lot of it is based off of social faux pas. And also, whenever they try to say that being transsexual, which is the state of having gender dysphoria, is not a mental impairment, I think that removes from the struggle that we go through as actual transsexuals. You know, there isn't anything inherently wrong with having a mental impairment. It can be very empowering. And that is what we have. That's what causes us to transition. That's why we're trans. That's why I'm going through all this. Why every other transsexual is going through all this. Is because we have no choice. And that brings further validation to it. And saying that it is not an impairment, I think, is ignoring the neurological facts behind it. You know, a lot of transsexuals who transition live very rewarding lives. They're happier in themselves, they're more confident in themselves, they can perform life better. And even though there are like pedophiles that try to mark their way into the transsexual community, we don't allow that. However, in the transgender community, they have infiltrated the transgender community. And some transgenders like to call them MAPs, minor attracted persons. They like to say that it is a sexuality and an identity, and that is what they run on. Now, the actual transsexual community, the trans medicalists, the gatekeepers, would never let that fly. And that's because we already know who we are. We know what we are. And through that, we have that validation through all the scientific research that actually will tell individuals who do not know what we go through through like actual images and medical journals. I think that is enough to speak for itself. But that was another rant, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, it was kind of shorter than the first one, but I really wanted to zoom in on that point. I'm new to YouTube as well. I don't really know if I don't know how serious I'm going to take this, and I don't know if I am going to like edit my videos and whatnot. For now, I'm just gonna post how I feel. And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. And if it doesn't, oh well, I'm having fun. But I've made some other points in that video that I'll zoom in on, but this is really the only one that I wanted to zoom in on, this one. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good year, rest of the year. I hope that you find happiness. I hope that you live a rewarding life and all that social faux pas. So yeah.